What's up, people? This is Hector from International MMA Channel. Just going to give you a quick, brief rundown of what happened last night with Alvarez versus Chandler number 2. Exciting fight. Probably one of the fights of the year. There's a lot of contenders for that. But for Bellator itself, it was an epic night. Unfortunately, it didn't set off at the pay-per-view event like they wanted to. But nonetheless, I think people finally got to know who Eddie Alvarez is and who Michael Chandler is, and undeniably they are the top legit contenders in the lightweight division. That being said, it's unfortunate with the whole Bellator UFC scrambles and that we're not going to be able to ever see any of these fighters fight the elite UFC fighters like Benson Henderson, Anthony Pettis, Clay. I apologize, Clay Guida's not in the lightweight division. Diego Sanchez, you have Gilbert Melendez, all these great fighters in the lightweight division. But nonetheless, I think that Chandler and Eddie Alvarez do rank up there with those MMA legit fighters in the UFC. Last night was a brawl out, and I had Chandler winning the whole fight. I had it 3-2, but we had an interesting thing where the judges actually judged against the aggression and the boxer. The boxer outwon the wrestler in this one. Usually the takedowns, you'll see with these kind of fights, takedowns will take a major points away from the other fighter and automatically giving that round to that fighter. Chandler did a spectacular job taking down Alvarez, but once on the ground there was really nothing. He had him a couple times where he did try to sink into the submissions, try to do some ground and pound, but Eddie Alvarez was slick as ever and could get out of these things, and then once on the ground basically battered this boy up bad. There's pictures. It was not a pretty scene. There was a lot of blood, mostly coming out of Michael Chandler's face. Eddie Alvarez now retains he is the new lightweight champion. There's been a lot of questions and a lot of speculations. What now? Is there a number 3 rematch? Does he go ahead and get a rematch right off the bat? Because this is Bellator, and it's a little bit different than the UFC, because usually if the champion loses, he has to do the tournament all over again and kind of go back up to show that he is the actual legit fighter to fight for the belt, to fight the challenger, which is now Eddie Alvarez. So this is a very intriguing thing. Will there be a pay-per-view? I think they asked these questions. Bjorn's not sure. Dana White had some smirky comments on Twitter, and it's just unfortunate because I have to give the kudos up to Bjorn because he's been nothing but a gentleman more and kept quiet about all these things. He really doesn't say that much. I think he's legitimately just trying to build his franchise and ignore the almost kind of bullying and taunting that's going on. With Eddie Alvarez, what a lot of people don't know is that there was a huge contract negotiation. Is he going to go with the UFC? Is he going with Bellator? And that's why he was off for so long. Eddie Alvarez thanked for being off for that long because he said that it did improve his conditioning. He was healed up. He was at 100% at this fight, and he did look it. Unfortunately, with Eddie Alvarez, he's a great fighter, but he's going to have to learn a lot more submission takedown stuff to takedowns. Better once he's on the floor. He was an aggressive fighter. I can't give it that much away. I think just a little bit more toning up on his wrestling, and I could have given the fight. But I agree and I disagree. I see Michael Chandler as me being stubborn in the ways of seeing, oh, he has a takedown in this round, got to give it to Chandler. Oh, he has this. But aggressive style, aggressive-wise, and boxing-wise, you had to give it to Eddie Alvarez. It's kind of the damn if you do, kind of damn if you don't kind of situation. Same thing with Carlos Condit when he fought Nick Diaz. You can kind of see when Nick Diaz kind of won it because he was the aggressor. He had better striking, but at the end they gave it to Carlos Condit. So it's kind of one of those situations like you kind of agree, you kind of disagree. You kind of see where they saw it coming, and it had great referees. They had Gene LaBelle, I believe, was one of the referees, and so was Mike. Is it Mike Beltran? One of the referees, the guy with the big flowing mustache, he was one of the judges. So I could kind of see where they were seeing it, and sitting ringside is completely different. I think you kind of saw the more dominating power of Eddie Alvarez, punishing Chandler, and when Chandler couldn't take any more punishment, he would try to take down. Sometimes there were stuff, sometimes they weren't. So That being said, I can't wait for the rematch. I hope that they don't make him go the whole tournament. He was undefeated. He had retained this belt, I believe, for 3 fights already. I don't see there's no reasoning of giving it to any other lightweight except Chandler and giving him an automatic rematch. That being said, we don't know what the statuses will be until Monday, or probably in the midweek of injury-wise, what's going on with these guys and how long are they going to be out of the fight scene. If you guys didn't see the fight, I recommend it. I think Spike and Bellator would be a great opportunity to kind of replay these fights from the first one where Chandler won and the second one where Eddie Alvarez won, and kind of hype this up. And I believe that they are the true legit pay-per-view feature of, you don't need a Tito Ortiz, you don't need a Rampage Jackson. This itself, a number 3, would be a pay-per-view event in itself. Bellator is showing more great fighters. You had Emmanuel Newton took out King Mo. He didn't take him out, but he dominated him for 5 rounds and took out who was supposed to be one of the top heavyweights in the division of Strikeforce, or light heavyweights in the Strikeforce. And we have that interesting thing as well. Bellator is growing up. It has more elite fighters, and it's kind of like the UFC when in the past, they were kind of seen as whatever, they have so-and-so fans, and then Pride was like the major one. And then Pride got bought out, and then UFC became that top mold of what legitimate fighters were. And I think Bellator is kind of branching out that way too, where, people see a tournament style and they're like, oh, this guy, we don't know this much and that. But that tournament style is good for them because it's bringing up these fighters and is bringing up a name to these fighters. Once again, this is Hector from International MMA Channel. Good night, good fights. We'll be back with UFC 167 predictions with the whole crew. This should be an interesting thing. We're back. It's legit. I'll be giving more predictions for championship fights for Bellator. It's unfortunate that still Bellator is not seen on international wise, so for Terracilio or Ben, it's really hard to find these fights when they're happening live. So I'm gonna go ahead and give my predictions for Bellator just for the championship fights. Like I said, once again, good night, good fight. Follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Peace.